What's going on? Welcome to the 5-Minute Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colton Olson, and on this podcast, we spend about 5 minutes, I say about 5, give or take a couple sometimes, breaking down and teaching you to apply psychological concepts that world-class athletes, CEOs, coaches, and elite military units use to take their performance to the next level. The key word here is apply. I don't want you to come here and just get a bunch of information and not know how to use it. I want you to leave here every day feeling like you have something in your hands that you can use right away to improve your life. Let's get to it. I want to start today by talking about talent. So I saw a video on Twitter of Inky Johnson, who is a former collegiate football player, giving a talk to another football team. He's a great follow on Twitter. If you haven't come across his stuff, it's awesome. And he was talking about talent and advantages, and I thought it was worth talking about here again. So when it comes to talent, everyone listening to this was born and blessed with talent in certain areas. So some of you were born fast, some of you are strong, some are athletic. Some are great in school, you're intelligent, some make friends really easily, some of you are great storytellers, you're funny, some of you can sing. We all have our gifts, right? In all different areas. And for the vast majority of our lives, these gifts that we've had serve as our advantage in competitive settings. When I say competitive settings, it's anything from sports to school to work, anything. And what happens is one day we figure out that we have an advantage in a certain area, like some of us go out to recess when we're 9 years old. We start playing sports and we realize that we're really fast. So we realize we have a certain advantage and then we lean on it heavily, as we should. It's an advantage. So like if I'm the strongest, I'll overpower people. If I'm the fastest, I'll just outrun people. If I'm funny, I tell jokes. Maybe if I'm intelligent, I study less than my friends. Anything like that. And these things carry us for a long time. But eventually, we always run into challenges. And sometimes these challenges, they put us in a place where our advantage, the advantage we've had our whole life, can't be relied on in the same way. Something we've been able to do better than everyone else is no longer just better. We can't just outdo people with the gifts we've grown up with because the challenge we're facing calls for more, or the people around us are just better. Maybe we find ourselves around a lot of other people who have the same advantages as us. So maybe everyone's athletic. Maybe everyone's fast. Maybe everyone's smart or funny, powerful. Whatever it is, we get in these groups and we no longer stand out. When we end up in a situation like this, we are at a massive risk of the advantage we've had our whole lives becoming a huge disadvantage. So our advantage becomes a disadvantage when it prevents us from adapting, learning, working hard, or embracing challenges as growth opportunities. It becomes a disadvantage when we believe all we need to do is show up and use our gifts. So I currently work in professional baseball, and we see this happen fairly often with players. So everyone that gets drafted to play professional baseball has always been the best player on pretty much any team they've been on. And they've usually been able to just rely on their gifts, right? They can out-talent people. They throw harder, they have more power, they're faster, whatever. But then they get to pro ball and everyone's gifted like them. They show up and everyone throws hard, everybody can hit, everybody's got power, everybody's great in the field. They realize that they're just kind of one of the guys now. And what happens is there are certain ones that make it and continue to separate themselves from everyone else, and those are the ones that are willing to adapt, to learn, and use these challenges to get better and not just rely on their gifts. They don't just rely on their advantages anymore. The ones that don't make it do just rely on their gifts. They sit there and they say, well, I've always been a good hitter. I'm just going to keep doing what I've done no matter how much I struggle, no matter what what challenges I face. I'm just going to do what I've always done and my talent will carry me. Those ones don't end up making it. They end up staying at the lower levels because their advantage has become a disadvantage. So the primary takeaway from today is that it is important to embrace our gifts, our advantages, but you also have to be willing to adapt, to learn, and to add to these advantages that you have. So when I say add to the advantages, it doesn't mean that you get to a certain place and you go, okay, I've got to stop doing this now. I can't do what I've always done well. I have to become somebody else. You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to change your skill set, but you do have to add to the skill set that you have. And that is done by learning, watching other people, adapting, and facing new challenges that you need to. If you don't, if you get complacent and you just rely on your gifts, you'll end up on the outside looking in before you know it. Your advantage will become a disadvantage really fast. So Make sure your advantages stay advantages by learning, adapting, and by seeking challenges yourself. When you do these things, your gifts will become greater. You will just add to what you already have, and you'll increase, your talent, your ability, and eventually separate yourself from the pack again. So that's all we've got for today. I appreciate you being here. Again, if you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. Find me on Twitter at RaidoPsych, Raidopsych, and I'll see you back here next time on 5 Minute Mindset.